President George W. Bush has gone silent for several years. Do you think President George W. Bush was a failed president?
I'm not going to say whether he was failed or not. He had some problems. Look, when somebody attacks me like Jeb at one of the debates, and I was very nice to him at the Ronald Reagan. I didn't say it. I didn't want to say it. But he talked about the tremendous safety. Well, excuse me, the World Trade Center came down during the, reign of George Bush, right? I mean, it came down. So during the Ronald Reagan, if you remember the library debate, he mentioned about how we were safe. We weren't safe. That was the greatest attack in the history of the United States, worse than Pearl Harbor because it was individuals. We were attacked as individuals as opposed to the military. The greatest single attack. So when he's saying, and I'm standing up there, I'm saying, do I want to embarrass him by saying this? But because I'm a nice person, I didn't do it. But then when he used it another time, I had to say, I'm sorry, but we weren't safe. The World Trade Center came down, which was the greatest attack in history on this country. So you had that. You obviously had the war, which was a big mistake. I mean, I think few people would say the war in Iraq was a positive. You had him on the aircraft carrier saying all sorts of wonderful things, how the war was essentially over. Guess what? Not over. And, the war with Iraq is a disaster. Now Iran is taking over Iraq, as sure as you're sitting there. They're taking the oil. They're taking everything. I said take the oil. I was against the war in Iraq, by the way. I was the only one on the stage. Believe me, you should get some points for vision. But I was totally against the war in Iraq. I said it's going to destabilize the Middle East. And then when they went in, I said when they're getting out, take the oil. They didn't take the oil. So now Iran is going to have the oil and ISIS has the oil. And ISIS, this has fueled ISIS because ISIS now has so much money because they've had the oil. So, yes.
World Trade Center. What do you think the president should have done in 2001 to stop the 9/11?
I don't say anything. I'm just saying this. If you look back at your records, you'll see that there was tremendous information, and the CIA and various other agencies were not talking, and they were not getting along, and there were a lot of personality conflicts, and they all hated each other, and we ended up with the World Trade Center, okay? And if you take a look at the book, The America We Deserve, written in the year 2000, I mentioned in that book, I wrote it, I mentioned in that book Osama bin Laden, because I saw him a couple of times and I read about him and I said, he's a bad dude. We better do something about him. Now, I wasn't even a politician. I wasn't in politics. I just have always found it very interesting. But I'm saying to myself, we better do something about that guy. So why wouldn't if you did something about him, you wouldn't have had the World Trade Center come down. But if you look back at the CIA and the various other agencies, they were, and I think John is nodding, I don't know if you remember it, but they had tremendous problems getting along together. That's management. Because if they did, they knew what was going, they knew some bad things were going to happen. They could have stopped it.
What about your comment at the last?
Go ahead.
Was it negligence on the part of President?
I don't say it was anything. I just say the world, I don't say anything. Here's what I say. Are you ready? The World Trade Center came down during his reign. So that was, it's like he was the top. The World Trade Center came down.
So he's accountable.
Well, the war with Iraq, which started this whole thing, the whole thing starts with the war in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, but one thing about him, he killed terrorists. Now Iraq is Harvard for terrorism. You want to become a terrorist, you go to Iraq. Saddam Hussein understood, and he killed terrorists. Bad guy. But if the president and other people, and frankly, Obama was no better because the way he got us out was a disaster. Look what's happened since then, a disaster. Shouldn't have been there, shouldn't have gotten out the way we got out. But if the president went to the beach, we would have been better off, believe me.
Mr. Trump, but what about...
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Just ask the question as clearly as possible. Is George W. Bush responsible for what happened on 9/11 or not?
No, I think we could have had greater vigilance, but I would never say anybody was responsible for that.
He's arriving here about an hour from now.
Say hello to him for me. Give him my warmest regards.
Not totally coincidental.
No. Look, this is... Me? No. Look. Actually, no. When was this set up? I have no idea. This was set up for Guantanamo. No, not really.
His presence in the state will be helpful, help Jeb Bush or hurt Jeb?
I compare it to Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton came out 4 weeks ago, and his wife made a statement about me having to do with sexism, right? And I made a statement about her and him. And I said once she made that statement, and once he was campaigning, it's a whole different ballgame. Now, if the ex-president is campaigning for his brother, I think he's probably open to great scrutiny, maybe things that haven't been thought of in the past. You know, when Jeb used his name, as I said in the first debate, in the Reagan debate, I left it alone. But when he kept using it, I said, I have to bring it up. When he talked about the great safety we had, I said, I'm sorry, at some point we have to bring it up. And the other day I brought it up. I said, the World Trade Center came down during your brother's reign.
Do you think there's a chance it'll actually hurt Jeb Bush to have his brother here in this?
I don't know what's going to hurt. I don't think anything can hurt him. I think he's doing so badly. How much worse can he be hurt? You know.
Getting back to your opposition, not the Supreme. Getting back to your opposition. Getting back to your
Tom, go ahead.
Mr. Trump, you're somebody who's incredibly proud of your family name, and earlier today you attacked Jeb Bush for coming out with the Jeb logo and yet no Bush name on the campaign logo, and now you have
I'm not the first. I'm not the first. I said from the beginning. I said from the beginning, Tom.
What does that tell you about Jeb?
Tells me nothing about him, actually. I think that the name Bush would have been better than an exclamation point. He's Jeb Bush. Now, the exclamation point didn't work, so now he's using Bush. But I think he should have used his name. I think it shows that he wasn't proud of the family. I don't know exactly what it tells you. But I always said, in fact, I would tell him, I said, why don't you use the name Bush? You're Bush. Use the name Bush.
And getting back to your opposition to the war in Iraq, can you cite something that you said?
Oh, yeah. Well, if you look at 2000, look. You can play cute. Who are you, by the way?
Jim Acosta, CNN.
Okay. CNN. Let me tell you, Jim, you can play cute. In 2003, excuse me, I'll tell you why it's cute. Because I said many things for a long time, but I wasn't a politician. So I'm not getting publicity if I say about, I said for a long time, don't go into the war, don't go into the war. I think the first time they have me down, you probably have it, is 2003. This is shortly, right after the war started. Somebody actually said it doesn't make any difference because right early on I said it. But I was saying it before then too. But in 2003, right at the beginning, I said it, and very strongly. In 2004, I was in Reuters and quoted all over the place because I was very much opposed to the war. Very simple. I said, you're going to destabilize the Middle East. Right now, you had two powers, Iraq and Iran, that were equal in terms of military strength. If you knock out one of those power, the other one is going to take over the Middle East. That's exactly what happened. Now, I didn't know that we'd be so stupid to make a deal where we give them $150 billion, which we just gave them. But now they have $150 billion, a very wonderful agreement with us in terms of, you know, they went out and they're spending their $150 billion. So far, they haven't spent any of it with us. They bought 118 aircraft from Airbus, which is European. They're spending their money all over Europe. They're buying missiles from Russia. They're spending their money with everybody but the United States. Not good. Not good.
It seemed like, especially in the Florida event, it seemed like you were trying to strike a more optimistic note. You weren't attacking your rivals as much. What's changed between Thursday and the debate?
Well, I'll tell you, I went to the debate and I was attacked. If I wasn't attacked, I thought it was my best debate. Some people agreed. Some people thought I was too tough. I thought it was my best debate. But I was being attacked from everybody. It was the incoming was unbelievable. I'm looking around, including by the moderator, because they're saying Donald Trump said this and this about your brother. That's how that whole thing started. That Donald Trump said in ancient times, so-and-so about your brother. That's how that came up. I didn't bring it up. That was brought up by John, as you know. Okay? So I didn't bring it up. So I was being attacked by the moderators from the standpoint that they were feeding. It was like a feeding frenzy on Trump. That's why they got good ratings. They got very good ratings. I think I'm doing great in South Carolina. I think the South Carolina voters, I know South Carolina very well. I've been here a lot. And I think they have a very sophisticated voter. And they get it. They get it. For instance, when Cruz lies about virtually everything I've done, they get it. I really believe they get it. We'll soon find out.
If you're so confident about this law, Mr. Trump, you said on the debate stage, delay.
Delay, yes.
Obviously, a term for presidency is 4 years long. This is the end of the president's term, 11 months left. In a Trump presidency, when do you draw that cutoff line if there was a vacancy to fill? How far?
I wouldn't draw the line. Hey, look, I don't blame Obama. He's going to try and do it. I don't think he should be successful because Mitch McConnell has a tremendous power in terms of the delay and in terms of, proceeding, et cetera, et cetera. And the time is not that long. It's, 11 months, 10 months. So it's not, no, but it's not that much. I'm not saying that Obama shouldn't do it. I'm just saying the Republicans should not allow it to happen. Now, I also said the Republicans should not have approved the budget they approved 4 weeks ago, and they approved the budget. So you never know. I mean, they've been very disappointing. The Republicans have been very, very disappointing. I always say that Obama is the worst negotiator I've ever seen with everybody but the Republicans.
What does it say about the Republicans, though, if some of these individuals, Srinivasan is a name that's been thrown around. He was, I think, 97-0 was his confirmation as a federal court judge. So if 97-0 is the score, as it were, then, and it changes now in a political year, what does that say about the Republican Party, and does that risk the Senate for Republicans?
I think what's going to happen is he'll put in somebody who's probably a little more moderate than he would have normally done. I still think the Republicans should reject. I think the new president should have that option.
Attacks on George W. Bush. You know, he's a very popular figure in the state of South Carolina, and a lot
So
of
am I.
people here may think that he kept the country safe after 9/11. Are you worried that
What does that mean, he kept the country safe after 9/11? In other words, we had this major catastrophe, and after that, what does that mean? I don't know. See, I've heard that for years. You know what? I've heard that for years, Jeremy. I've heard for years he kept the country safe after 9/11. What does that mean, after? What about during 9/11? I was there. I lost a lot of friends that were killed in that building. The worst attack ever in this country? It was during his presidency. You mean we had the worst attack ever? By the way, after that, we did okay. That's meaning the team scored 19 runs in the first inning, but after that, we played well. I don't think so.
What are the stakes here Saturday for you and your campaign?
Hi everybody, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I thought it was pretty good press conference. If you guys haven't seen it yet, the full thing is available at the Alternate Mox News YouTube page. You can find a clickable link to the Alternate Mox News YouTube page in the text body of this video, which is right below the video. There's a little box that says Show More, and then it says Alternate Mox News YouTube page. Click here. And you click on it and it takes you right there, and you can subscribe, and that way you won't miss out on anything, because right now we have a copyright strike against this page, which means we won't be able to post any videos over 15 minutes. So if you want to see the full press conference, you'll have to go to the Alternate Mox. That's pretty good. Trump is defending his comments about the 9/11 attacks happened on George Bush's watch. How is that keeping us safe? I think that that's pretty good. Actually, what I love about it is that what he's doing is he's getting the media to start saying, hey, what about this 9/11 comments? And yes, hey, what about 9/11 comments? Hey, American people, 9/11, you remember 9/11? We need to talk about 9/11 in these comments. Did George Bush keep us safe? Did he use 9/11 to lie us into a war in Iraq so that him and his brother and all their crony buddies can profiteer and make billions of dollars, just like Dick Cheney did? Did they? Yes, media, good. Keep asking questions about 9/11. That's really good, because the American people need to talk about 9/11. That's what you want the American people talking about. Keep asking those questions. Anyways, if you want to see the debate is also there from this last weekend, where Trump, said, Donald Trump said, Jeb Bush's brother didn't keep us safe during his reign. The 9/11 attacks happened during George W. Bush's reign. And this is just the facts, and somehow the media can't deal with it. It's like, oh, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be asking questions like that. You shouldn't be making statements like that. Who the fuck is the media? Because they don't want to hold anybody accountable. They think that Donald Trump should be nobody should be able to hold him accountable. If the media is not going to do it, then nobody should do it. And that's why the media is hammering Donald Trump on this. So you know. Also at the Alternate Mox News YouTube page, you will find a rally in South Carolina from today, a Jeb Bush rally, in which George W. Bush joined Jeb Bush on stage for the first time during this campaign, presidential campaign. So and I think that George W. Bush, it's been a long day, but I think he was talking about reading to children on 9/11. I think he was talking about it. I think he said something about reading to children. Unbelievable. Yes, we need to talk more about 9/11. You remember that? About him reading to children on 9/11? I'll talk about that a little later. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your continued support. Stay cool. One of these days we're going to get some truth out of these horrible, horrible people.